Hello, everyone. So, my name is David Rodriguez, and hopefully, you're not just laying around the house and you've been doing work in your landscape, your garden, your lawn, and getting ready for this and that, and fall is just around the corner. Our topic today is turf grass basics with the emphasis on where your lawn is at this time, surviving the summer and the rest of the year. I'm the extension horticulturalist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service here in Bexar County and San Antonio. That is my email address, and towards the end we'll show it again. If you have any gardening or landscape related questions or something we didn't cover today, do not hesitate to send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you need to send images, please send quality images attached to the email and history about the question that you need help with. Our main audience is typically folks in Central and South Texas within a 100-mile radius or so of San Antonio, but I know we're getting a lot of folks throughout the state attend a lot of these webinars that we're having. So the information that we're giving you today can be used anywhere in the state. Typically, if we give dates here for San Antonio for going into the fall season, we would say safely 2 weeks. Go ahead and do that earlier. If you're south of San Antonio, no, excuse me, if you're north of San Antonio going into the fall, that would be 2 weeks earlier on the date, and then south could be 2 weeks later. So again, welcome everyone. So Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, over 100 plus years in our great state of Texas. We have a unique partnership in the 254 counties in our great state of Texas, funded through the county as well as the state and a little bit through the federal government, USDA. And we are funded separately from our land grant university, which is in College Station, Texas A&M University, which is the oldest institute of public higher education since 1876 in our great state of Texas, and which the first great Republican president of our great nation on July 2nd, 1862, during the War of the States, initiated and signed the Morrill Act, which got these land grant universities going, and then the research stations and the extension service a few years after that. So again, thank y'all. Hopefully y'all been keeping an eye on all these archived webinars. Since we're taping today, this should be archived on our My Extension 210 YouTube channel within a week or less. And please subscribe to it. We have a lot of great, not only gardening and Molly's entomology, but a lot of other great youth-oriented 4-H information, information on chickens and other great things. But please help us get the word out. Just do a web search, My Extension 210, and we have all these archived there. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on some of our webinars, or it might be new to you today, we did cover a couple of webinars related to turfgrass and pest earlier in the year. One was getting your lawn and landscape ready for the summer heat. So if you follow those guidelines, a lot of what we're reviewing and covering today, you should have made it almost to the summer heat. And then, of course, the turf and lawn maintenance basics, it's more than just mowing. So, and I invite everyone, when this is archived, this webinar, to look at this again, and then these two, and this will really, really get you polished off in good 12 months out of the year on lawn maintenance. So a lot of what we're covering today is review, and some guidelines for now through the end of the year as well. So today is August 18th, 2020. Traditionally, July and August are the two hottest months out of the year. Typically, the oven turns on around mid-June, and about mid-September, fall is just around the corner thereafter. July and August is not only just extreme daytime temperatures, but look at some of these temperatures, 100 degrees at 8 o'clock last night. It's crazy, folks. And we've had a lot of those days, 100 plus. It don't matter if it's 90 degrees or 99 or 104. So it's hot. And not only for us, but our landscapes and often our turf grass situations that we have. So I think a couple of the biggest challenges when it comes to turf grass in general is knowing the types of turf grasses that you have. And there's three major, what we refer to as warm season turf grasses. St. Augustine, which is typically referred to as carpet grass, is going to be the coarsest blade of all the warm season turf grasses. All these warm season turf grasses really need full sun to thrive. There are some selections of St. Augustine that will take some shaded situations. Bermuda will run away from shade. It really needs a full sun. It's used most on commercial areas, golf courses, and things like that at different input sports fields. Bermuda will run away from the shade. It really needs full sun. And Bermuda, if it's not a hybrid selection, can be a pretty big weed problem in some of our flower beds and our vegetable gardens. Bermuda and Zoysia, if you mow it and put a lot of inputs on it at 1.5 inches or lower, as they do in golf courses and sports fields, you would have to mow that with the old-fashioned reel type mowers, not the conventional rotary mower that most of us use. And Zoysia will take a little bit shade, but really needs the sun and not as much shade as some of the St. Augustine selections. So hopefully you know which of these three types that you have and the cultivated varieties within those that are thriving at this time. Again, St. Augustine is the coarsest blade. Look at that leaf blade real close on the St. Augustine, because when we talk about mowing, we'll refer back to this slide on what's happening on mowing a lot of these turf grasses. Bermuda is a much finer blade. It grows both above ground and below ground root and stolon structures, stoloniferous and rhizomatous growth habits. And then there's, of course, the Zoysias, including El Toro, my favorite Zoysia selection. And there's people that try Palisades and Jammer. So those are the three warm season turf grasses, which basically go to sleep or dormant during wintertime. Uh, they'll go, and we'll talk about seeding a little bit on a slide here to come. St. Augustine's, depending on how cold the winter is, stays semi-evergreen, might have a little bit browning in the wintertime. Bermuda goes into a dormancy not only in wintertime, but if it's well established and the water's off, both having below and above ground growth structures to it, can go into a pseudo dormancy if it's been well maintained and has a good crown and root structure to it. If the water is turned off, and it's amazing when it does a pseudo or quiescence dormancy in the summertime when we irrigate or the rains come back, how it wakes up compared to the other types of warm season turf grasses. So hopefully you got where you need to be, and you're planning and preparing for fall, which is typically about the third week of September. We always say fall is for planting. Maybe coming out of the rest of August to about mid-September, you have a game plan of converting your modern day landscape to 1/3 landscape plants, trees, shrubs, cut flowers, perennials, herbs, vegetables, other 1/3 pervious surfaces, hardscapes, mulch areas, rock container here and there in the appropriate locations. And turf grass does have its place out there, but no more than about 1/3. We have to have a balance of all these to be good environmental stewards and follow the earth kind recommendations. So 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 is really the best for our modern day landscapes to have for most of us as home gardeners. And hopefully with that 1/3 of plant material, a lot of those plants will be Texas superstar plants which if you're driving around town, particularly the heat of July and August, what's blooming their brains out? Bashan Sparty Pink Crepe Myrtle, Gold Star Esperanza, Mexican Bird of Paradise, New Gold Lantana, Blue Cape Imperial Blue Plumbago, just to mention a few, i.e., they're all Texas superstars. And of course, the 94 plants of the Texas Superstar Plant Program, 90% of them have come out of the San Antonio program, which helps grows businesses, employs people, and beautifies our landscapes in and around our great state of Texas. So the challenge of July and August is always the watering situation. Plants need water. And remember, plants as well as turf grass do not waste water. People waste water. So we always recommend before the oven turns on around May and possibly coming out of August into September, you know, if you haven't figured out your irrigation system, be it be you a hose dragger or an in-ground sprinkler system, we have to make sure we're running this thing efficiently and have adequate water. As a rule of thumb, during July and August, in lieu of significant rain events, we tell folks for most lawns of these warm season turf grasses, St. Augustine's, Bermuda, and Zoysia, in lieu of a significant rain event, and we've done banked water and used it wisely and put it in our savings account for banking the water 8, 9 months out of the year, and we use it when it's super hot, like we've been seeing July and August, maybe early September, an inch a week for most of these warm season turf grasses, maybe in the shade a half an inch. And then where you have hot spots, we hand water and then go from there, and what we're going to show you next. So the bottom line is knowing how your system works, not watering the street or sidewalk, making sure these heads, sprinkler heads, and the hoses and the sprinkler types that you use are efficient and getting the water. Water. When does plants need water? When is the best time to water? The best time to water a lawn or a plant is what? When it needs it. But ideally early in the morning. Don't make it a habit too much in the evening because lack of sunlight, air circulation, humidity levels might proliferate disease pressure on your plants. So, folks that have been having issues, so David, you say water an inch a week and this and that and all that good stuff. The bottom line is you need a minimum, ideally, 4 to 6 inches of good soil. This is our parent material for most of Central and South Texas, down the 35 corridor. Our parent material is limestone. So most of us have heavy clay-like soils. Folks, if you don't have 4 to 6 inches of good, decent soil, and your builder should have put that in when they put your high dollar house out there, you're fooling yourself. You're going to have issues, big time issues. And the folks that are having the most issues is they don't have 4 to 6 inches of soil. They have less than two. So this really, really goes back to the 1/3. Maybe we don't need as much lawn as we think we need. Of course, for the kids to play, remember, play, 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 kids, and the dogs as well, and recreational areas. But that's the folks that are having a lot of issues is lack of soil. And people have to use air hammers, to plant trees and shrubs or fall tomatoes. So if you don't have 4 to 6 inches, that root system cannot go down deep, deep, deep. So we say an inch a week of supplementary irrigation in July and August in lieu of significant rain events. So we need to change this. So don't be irrigating weekly in December and January during the coldest time of the year. Okay, we need to know our system and do things correctly. So typically around mid-September, nighttime, daytime temperatures start cooling down. Days become shorter. Temperatures are much cooler, God willing. So we don't need to water as much. So maybe an inch every 10 to 14 days to maybe an inch every 3 weeks from mid-September to March 1st. Adjust accordingly. But, once we have rain and cooler temperatures, we don't need to water the same in the fall and winter, and even probably late winter and early spring as we do in July and August. Bank your water, save it, and your water purveyor will appreciate it as well as your water bill as well. So, folks that have made it through July and August are not only doing irrigation efficiency audits, either with the fancy catch cans or 1 inch shallow cat food or tuna cans, and doing good mean averages and adjusting accordingly, getting a licensed irrigator. Locally, we have the San Antonio Irrigation Association. So, if you don't know a licensed irrigator in your area, get to know them. You're not sufficient and efficient, you get your car serviced 2 3 times a year. Don't Shouldn't we do that to our sprinkler system as well? So the folks that really have made it through the July and August heat have got their watering down correctly, their system done correctly for efficiency and effective irrigation practices. Most of them have at least 4 to 6 inches, ideally, of soil in their residence. But the folks that have really, really made a major difference this summer in July and August, especially, are folks that core aerate their lawns. So a core aeration machine has these 3 inch tines to it, and it basically penetrates the soil and extracts a core of soil. So when it extracts a core of soil, what this does with proper irrigation, more oxygen in the soil profile as well as gas exchange in the soil profile, encourages the turf grass to go deeper, deeper in the soil, not an addicted, shallow rooted turf grass that's hungry for water all the time. So we recommend core aeration process at least once every 3 years for most homeowners. You can do it any time of the year, but the ideal time to core aerate most of our lawns is basically from mid-September through early April. And I really, really like to core aerate in early March, when most of these warm season turf grasses are coming out of winter dormancy with new crown and root and leaf growth. And it just extracts that core of soil. You might have a challenge on sandier soils to do this, but most of us have clay soils locally and around the state. And you don't pick up that little core, it just breaks up around. And then as soon as you finish core aerating, you want to put about a half an inch of a premium finely screened organic lawn dressing, which is basically a compost that's been aged, properly aged with other ingredients. But you don't want to use too much sand, very little to no sand in heavy clay-like soils. That's not good. And if your place that you purchase your bulk material, or if you decide to go with bags, which gets expensive, tell them to cut it with some more finished compost, finely screened, properly aged compost, because that sand on heavy clay soils just makes it more like a brick, and that's not good. So folks that have used this process have found out during June, July, August, early September, and all things being equal, 4 to 6 inches of soil, proper irrigation, mowing, and fertility, which we'll cover next, can cut their water bill by 20%, and some folks by half. So the little bit you pay up front on core aerating the soil, as well as putting the lawn dressing out about a half an inch, you really pay for it long term, because that organic material acts as a sponge. It fills those holes up, helps that root system get down deeper with proper gas exchange and oxygen in the soil profile. So when you buy bulk by the yard or truckload from these soil pits, make sure that you ask for manure based compost or lawn dressing manure base. Some of them make biosolids, And really, if you can smell that biosolids and put up with it 2 or 3 days, maybe apply it on a Friday and leave town and come back Monday. Really, really, biosolids has a unique smell. But biosolids, when it comes to nutrient rich soil, because compost is an amendment, not a fertilizer, but biosolids has a nutrient content almost like applying a bag of organic fertilizer. So the choice is yours. Either one, these products are safe. They go way beyond EPA regulations. As long as you apply correctly at the right time and the right rates. Again, Biosolid has a unique fragrance, but it dissipates within 3 days or so. So mowing. So most of us haven't been mowing most of the summer, and hopefully by mid-June or so, you raise your mower. This is a rotary a mower, conventional rotary mower. We raised it to the highest height because we need leaf mass during the hottest time to cover the crown and roots in the soil. But we keep mow every so often just to tidy it up. Maybe a few leaves that have fallen on the ground or a weed here and there. Of course, we never let weeds flower and set seed, but a well-maintained mower is very important as well. Are your blades being cut very smoothly, or are they being ripped? Do you know a place that can maintain your mower? Do you take your mower in once or twice a year to get the plugs and the filter changed? We always get the air filter changed a couple times or so in our vehicles, but imagine the wear and tear on these engines on these lawnmowers. So if you're not capable of doing that, do you know a fix it up shop? I know Mr. Aaron Cox personally. Aaron Cox at Blanco Fix It. He sharpens the blade of the mower and changes the air filter and all that good stuff. So, maintain your mowers. A good, well maintained mower is what we need when we mow these lawns. So, when we go into the fall time, we'll probably lower it a little bit, depending on the species of warm season grass that you have, but not real low. And you're probably going to be mowing a little bit more in the fall, maybe not as much as the spring. But we always follow the 1/3 rule of thumb. A well maintained mower with sharp blades, right? And when we remove leaf mass, remember pruning is a dwarfing and rejuvenation process, regardless if you're pruning perennials, shrubs, or even your lawn. Use sharp equipment, proper equipment, but do not remove no more than 1/3 of the leaf mass at any time. So fall, you're going to be mowing a little bit more with cooler weathers, some rainfall here and there. You're cutting back the supplement irrigation and watering. And then when late fall, winter comes, you're probably not going to be mowing that much. You might be mowing the leaves out there that fall off your trees. Remember, we do not bag grass clippings or leaves. We go at a slow pace early in the morning after the morning dew has left, and we recycle those leaves and those grass clippings, free nutrition, free organic material back into the soil profile, and remove no more than 1/3 and tidy it up when you mow in the fall and in the winter, but don't mow as much as you would do in the springtime. Nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. What does the bear do in the fall before he goes to sleep and hibernates? He builds up his storage supply, his fat supply, and then he hibernates. So that's the same concept on these warm season turf grasses, St. Augustine Bermudas and Zoysia. I think fall is probably the most important time to fertilize everything. It's very, very important. We're not fertilizing the lawn in the fall time to really grow it. We might green it up a little bit, but we're trying to get stored nutrition, carbohydrates, and proteins both in the root system, in the crown, So these plants can go to sleep happy, 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 and wake up better when we're ready to fertilize after our second or third mowing in the springtime. So why do we recommend a 3-1-2 ratio often on all our plants in general, trees, shrubs, lawns, even vegetable gardens? Why? Because plants are made up of 3 parts nitrogen, typically. That's the first number on the bag of winterizer fertilizer, 18. 1 part phosphorus, which is 6, and 2 parts potassium, 12. And then a lot of these products have sulfur, iron, and other essential nutrition in it as well. So this is what we want to use. So in the San Antonio area, we do this at mid-October. Mow first, maybe the day before, apply it out early in the morning at 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Folks, you know how big your front and backyard is, right? So let's put these poundage out at the right square footage. So if you live north of San Antonio, like Waco and beyond, you probably want to put this out about early October. Remember, we said 2 weeks. And if you live south of San Antonio, 2 weeks later, so you can put it out as late as early November. So that's kind of a guideline for San Antonio, the surrounding area, north and south of San Antonio as well. We do not use slow release fertilizers in the fall. Remember, these warm season turf grasses, we're getting at the essential nutrition quick in the crown, the root, and we're trying to put them to sleep. You know, a lot of people can have their first frost as early as Halloween, but typically about mid-November, early December. So we're trying to get this in the plant, the lawn, quickly. We only use slow release fertilizers like mid-April, like for our lawn, and then for our spring and fall vegetable garden. That would be like something like a 1959 or a 2510 premium lawn food, which is more of a 4-1-2 ratio. So if you want to use organic fertilizer, that's great. That's fine. An element is an element is an element. It has to be broken down by microbial activity in the soil, temperature, and taken in through the feeder root. So a plant doesn't know one or the other, but you make the option for your family what would work best for you. Regardless if you use organic fertilizer or traditional winterizer, which we've been recommending for almost 40 plus years, use the right rates at the right time. Immediately seal the both types of bags after you apply it and store it in a good place. Okay. So we use 6 weeks as a rule of thumb if you want to use the organic option. Remember, the nutrient analysis is much, much slower. 18-6-12 compared to a 4-2-3. So being organic, most of these natural base organic type fertilizers are either alfalfa base or poultry base. So you usually have to apply much, much early because it takes a while to break down, much, much longer to break down. So use 6 weeks as a rule of thumb. So in the spring, we usually say early March. And this is for the organic folks that want to use this option in the next week or two, early September, you would want to apply it. Now, since the analysis is so low, you typically have to apply about 4 times as much compared to the 18-6-12, which we use 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Here we would use 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Plus, it says it on the back of the bags, folks. And I know everyone always reads and follows label instructions, right? And do your own math. You learn second grade math, how to do a plus and negative and all that good stuff, and see what works best for you and your family. All these products are good if we use them correctly. It's not the product that's bad, it's how we use it correctly or not correct. So always read and follow label instructions on either one of these 2 products. And most of the independent nurseries and feed stores would have both of these products as well. Briefly about weeds. The best weed control is a good, well-maintained, thick matted lawn. The next would be your spouse hand pulling them. But most importantly, if that ain't going to work, is a well maintained mower with sharp blades. Never let a weed flower and set seed. It's very important. Weeds are classified by very fleshy broadleaf types, grassy types, and the sedges, including purple and yellow nut sedges. But you really don't need to know this one's name is Fred, this one's name is Tom, Steve, etc. As long as you kind of get it in those three classifications. The other thing is it a cool weather weed or is it a warm weather weed? If you can kind of get it in those time frames and classification, you're doing pretty good there. So there are no silver bullets. People do what they want to do. They don't follow our turfgrass guidelines and of proper mowing, watering, irrigation, nutrition, um, core aerating, lawn dressing, and then we get a big weed problem out there. And what is the first thing they do? They want to use the silver bullet, weed and feeds. We do not recommend weed and feeds. Okay. I've seen many expensive live oak trees die. And when you read and follow label instructions on this weed and feed, it specifically says do not put this underneath the canopy of trees or flick into flower beds. Of course, those people that lost their $30,000 live oak tree, uh, I didn't see that on the bag. Did you read it? No. The weed part is used at the wrong time of the year often when the turf grass is just coming out of winter dormancy. So timing is bad and it's just a bad product. We don't recommend this at all. Just follow the guidelines of what we talked on fertilizer as well as mowing, core aerating, lawn dressing, as well as proper irrigation. Now, we do recommend this if you need to kind of catch up. Okay, need to catch up. This does not kill adult weeds. Do not let adult weeds flower or set seed. Okay, I really don't recommend any post-emergent herbicides for most home gardeners anymore because unfortunately they don't use them correctly. And a lot of people have been trying to kill thick grassy and broadleaf and grassy weeds in the summertime, and a lot of them are stressed and killing their lawn because again they don't read and follow labeled instructions. Wrong turf grass, wrong type of weed wasn't identified correctly, and it's too hot, you get burned. But this is a good insurance policy. If you need to catch up and get your lawn where it needs to be thick matted, we have to remember with these classifications of the three weeds, broadleaf and grassy, we have cool weather and warm weather weeds. So we apply a pre-emergent herbicide either containing dimension or barricade. You flick it out just like lawn fertilizer at the right square footage as recommended on the bag. But timing is very crucial, okay? Timing is very crucial. And both of these are broad spectrum, both for broadleaf and grassy type weeds. So late February or early March, we put this out to minimize the seedlings of the warm weather weeds that are coming with the warmer temperatures. The soil's warming up and those are coming out in the springtime. And the next one for most of us is for cool weather weeds. Cool weather weeds. So timing is around late August, early to mid-September, depending what part of the state that you're at. And this can be negated if we have unique temperatures, extreme rain events, particularly 2 to 3+ inches of rain after any of these products are applied, dilutes it so down that you typically have to reapply it. So this makes a big difference. Get your grass where it needs to be, your lawn, thick it up. And then once you get the weeds and minimize any weed pressure, then you would go ahead and probably don't need to use this much but it does a great job where you need to catch up. Let's talk a little bit about overseeding. So we've talked about our three major warm season turf grasses: St. Augustine, Bermuda, and Zoysia. So when you drive around November, December, January, when the temperature is much cooler in the late fall and the winter months, when you see commercial and residential areas have very green lawns, what they typically do is they overseed. Okay. So if you use a pre-emergence herbicide, you probably will not want to overseed. And we do this in the fall, typically around late October, early to mid-November, when the warm season turf grasses are about to go dormant. We do not overseed zoysia lawns. We do not overseed stressed Bermuda lawns. Okay. We only overseed very healthy and strong Bermuda lawns, and we do that at the rate of 1 pound per 75 to 100 square feet. If you want to do a healthy St. Augustine lawn, we can do a rate of about 1 pound per 100 to 150 square feet. So that's around late October to mid-November, okay? Remember, we cannot use pre-emergence if we overseed. We overseed these warm season turf grasses, St. Augustine and Bermuda, only if they're well maintained and very healthy, with a perennial or dwarf type selection of ryegrass. We do not recommend annual ryegrass or cereal or elbon. It needs to be a perennial or dwarf type. This would include selections such as Pantera, some of the dwarf selections of ryegrass, maybe Greyhound if you can find it, not the annual or the elbon or cereal. Now, you're growing the grass in the winter months. That means you occasionally have to mow it, and water it if it's a super dry winter. But most of us don't need to water that much in the fall winter because it's usually cool enough and we get good rainfall. If need be, maybe once every 3 to 4 weeks, if that. But these perennial type and dwarf type selections of ryegrass, again, you never let a weed or go to seed. So we don't let them go to seed. And with the heat going into the springtime, March and April, when these warm season St. Augustine and Bermuda lawns are coming out of dormancy, with the heat, the ryegrass just dies out naturally. So some people use it, so that's what you see: golf courses, recreational fields, homeowners, commercial places, etc. That's what they do. They oversee with the ryegrass. So we covered a little bit information, but more reviewed you what you should already be doing and doing now, getting through the rest of the year, and some considerations. Remember, people waste water. All these warm season turf grasses, St. Augustine, Bermuda, and Zoysia, need the same amount for survivability. So St. Augustine is not a water hog. You know, they need the same amount for survival, but the same similar inputs. Use Aggie Turf and Aggie Horticulture and all these websites that we have in front of you here, please. A lot of information, good information, and articles on plantanswers.com as well to help you have the best turf grass in your neighborhood. Because remember, you know, the amount of inputs that you put into your landscape with having about a 1/3 turf grass area, you know, if you let it go to weeds and you let it die and you bank your water and use it wisely in July and August, it costs a heck of a lot more money to replace a lawn than to maintain it correctly. If you live in and around San Antonio area, go to Milberger's Landscape and Nursery on 1604 in Beauverde. Great partners of extension that carry a lot of the great Texas Superstar plants. But out there on the access road, They have a kind of a turfgrass demonstration plots out there. Go look at those and how they look 2 or 3 times a year. Take your shoes off, walk on it. If you take your shoes or sandals off and you have gravel as a mulch around your plants at 2 p.m., you know how your feet are going to feel. But the St. Augustine, Zoysias, and Bermudas that they sell as well are going to be much more easier to walk on grass than gravel. So Milberger's Landscape Nursery, go look at their turf grass plots as well. So thank you. This webinar, as all our webinars, are taped. It should be on the YouTube channel, hopefully in a week or so. Ruby does a fabulous job on that. Subscribe to it and help us get the word out on this and all the webinars that we do. Don't forget, tomorrow, Molly Keck is doing part 2 of Turfgrass Pests at 12 noon tomorrow. So hopefully y'all can attend that one as well. I always like to throw a bonus plant. So mid-August is here, folks. And one of my favorites that blooms in the fall time is Mexican mint marigold, Tagetes lucida. Some people call it Texas tarragon. It has a very beautiful, compact growth habit to about 2 feet tall. It has a licorice fragrance to it. En español se llama yerba anís. It has you can make a nice soothing tea for your stomach. Tagetes is the genus of marigold, so it has a marigold-like flower in the fall time. Hopefully y'all have been planting your fall marigolds at this time, so they will bloom for Halloween and Thanksgiving to the first frost. So Mexican mint marigold, fall aster, cigar plant, and a lot of your perennials and salvias, if they look leggy or spent, they don't have that many blooms, cut all them back this weekend. No more than 1/3 as we mow the lawn. We do that the same with perennials. You want to get this done on all these perennials by early September. Sharp pruners, lightly fertilize them, lightly mulch them, replenish that double shredded organic mulch with the compost mixed in it, and then you'll enjoy this blooms heavy in the fall time, and they also bloom a little bit in the springtime. Mexican mint marigold, one of my favorite plants. So hopefully you're listening to us this Saturday and every Saturday with my radio mentor, Mr. Bill Rohde, that's been doing radio for 54 years on the 1200 AM WOA Lawn and Garden Show every Saturday, 7 to 9. So we do have podcasts for all our shows. So hopefully y'all, besides our webinars, you listen to us every Saturday as well. So we can go ahead and answer some of these lawn-related questions, Ruby. And folks, that's my email address. Hope y'all learned a lot. Stick around because it's always good to listen to questions and we get a review and everyone will learn at the same time as well.
Okay, thank you, David. That was very informative. Very good presentation. Our first question comes from Cindy from Austin. Can you use a core aeration machine if you have an in-ground sprinkler system?
Great question, Cindy. If you have an in-ground sprinkler system, they should have put it down correctly. And what I mean down correctly is at the proper depth. So that means at least 4 to 6 inches, ideally 6 inches. So remember, we said that the tines on the core aeration machine are 3 inches. So it should not be an issue, but you still want to flag your sprinkler heads and your lateral lines. And rodeo here in San Antonio, Cindy, is February, and you see the little ones on the mutton busters, the kids on those little lambs. If you've never used a core aeration machine, folks, that's your 8-second rodeo ride. So it'll buck you. So try to get 2 or 3 neighbors to rent the machine, source it early, get the high grade lawn dressing with minimum amount of sand because you're on heavy clay soils there, and try to knock out 3 or 4 of your neighbors together. You save money and just have capable people of running that machine there.
Okay, thank you, David. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please type it into the chat. And also, if you see in our chat, Denise has been putting some links to some very helpful websites. Be sure to check those out. Okay, our next question comes from Gary from Katie. What are your thoughts on chemical aeration?
Okay, sorry about that. Um, yeah, I've been hearing a few people talk about this chemical aeration. I'm not real familiar with it. Um, what we recommend in extension is time proven, economically feasible recommendations. I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know about the cost effectiveness. And a lot of these new things, I'm always skeptical of new things, especially if extension has not worked with it with industry. But if you feel that it works good for you and it's cost efficient, go for it.
Okay, thank you, David. Our next question comes from Lon. Uh, does top dressing bring in more weeds to the lawn?
Another good question. Well, when you get the bags of lawn dressing, it should be properly aged material or when you purchase it bulk. Okay. We talked about sand. We don't want too much sand in our heavy clay soils. So if it's been properly aged, if it's been properly decomposed, it's not super hot, and um, they've mined the topsoil or the sand deep in the pit. So you're a consumer. So talk to these places. If they just scratch the top or on the edges and not gone deep, yes, that could be a weed issue, particularly nutsedge and nematodes. So quality control at its best. Go over there to that site and talk to them. You're the consumer and ask them these questions. But if you have a quality place, a New Earth Soils and Compost, their distributors and places like that, um, you should not have issues with weed problems and or nematodes, because these piles, if they're aged properly and screened this material correctly, these piles are pasteurized of 160 to 180 degrees. So any bad bugs, you might say, bad fungi, weeds, etc., should be composted out.
Okay, thank you. Our next question comes from Yolanda. If reestablishing Bermuda, should you aerate what you have now, then add 4 to 6 inches of soil, then seed?
Okay, we really need to discuss this because you don't want to elevate your lawn or your landscape 4 to 6 inches unless you have a very capable landscape contractor out there to help you with that. Because once you start elevating and you change the grade or topography in and around your landscape, and 4 to 6 inches would be pretty drastic. You might have drainage issues, water going back to your residence or into your neighbors. So you really have to have a good landscape contractor that knows how to do grading and work with you on that. So we're not making a big problem there. Billy Long Enterprises locally. Billy Long's probably the best contractor locally that I know on that. So if you can, then you want to bring good quality, but you also have to look is what do you have underneath 2-3 inches. If it's solid rock and limestone, we have to say where is the grass roots are going to go. So instead of going that drastic, just good lawn maintenance, building up the organic material by core aerating and lawn dressing, all those might be the better answer.
Okay, thank you, David. Our next question is, what kind of ryegrass should you use on your lawn?
Good review question, folks. So we only overseed healthy Bermuda, not stressed, or St. Augustine, right? So we do that in late October to the month of November, okay? And we don't want, good review question. We covered this already. We do not want to use annual. We do not want to use cereal or elbon. We use dwarf or perennial selections. Anything that's dwarf or perennial, including Greyhound, Pantera, or dwarf selection. And we do that at 1 pound per 75 to 100 square feet on Bermuda, and 1 pound per 100 to 150 square feet of St. Augustine. It's a very big seed, so you got to flick it out early in the morning. Mow first the day before, flick it out early in the morning without damaging that seed, and then immediately water it in. If you're doing it on bare soil, you want to make sure that soil has been scratched up a little bit. Maybe put a thin layer on a very thin layer, but water immediately, because being a big seed, cool weather, temporary, overseeding type grass, the birds will find it if they're hungry. So you do have to take caution with that.
Okay, thank you, David. Our next question is also about aerating your lawn with a irrigation system, but Ralph asks that he would like to core aerate, but doesn't have a sprinkler head system, but has a soaker irrigation. And it doesn't seem to be too deep. What are your thoughts on aerating with the soaker irrigation?
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. You know, I like to see God give me rain from the skies, and when I water, the rain go down. So a lot of people are starting to use those subsurface irrigation systems, but you check with your contractor. I don't know that answer, how low they laid it, because remember, a core aeration machine has 3-inch tines. So I would presume they put it at least 4 inches or so deep if they did it 4 inches, because remember, what are we trying to do? We're trying to encourage the turf grass to go deep into the soil, not an addicted shallow root system. So that's why we water efficiently and follow all the guidelines we've talked about today. So hopefully they laid it 4 to 6 inches below that soil surface, I would think, on heavy clay type soil. So if they did it correctly, then core aeration should be okay to use.
Okay, our next question comes from Mary, and this may be a little difficult to answer without a photograph, but she does ask that she says that the city planted grass in the alleyway of her house, and it looks like it's growing into her backyard. What kind is it, and what is the best way to get rid of it?
Yeah, without looking at it. So, you know, you all have my email address. So send me good quality close-up pictures of the grass. If it's flowering, send me the seeds as well, leaves, etc. But grass is grass, and if you want to kill it, that's an easy one. But you know, if the city planted it, I would think you would get in trouble if you killed it. So you better check into you better check into, unless it's on your property. But mow it down first and get it back. Make sure it's in an active growth stage. So meaning mow, water, get it growing fresh, tender growth, and then get a non-selective herbicide like 41% glyphosate weed and grass killer. These products are safe if we use them correctly and spray it early in the morning on a non-windy day when it's green and actively growing. Whatever's green, it will kill if it's a grass or weed. So if you get it on your lawn, it's going to kill it as well. So consider that. But again, if it's on the easement and you spray, that's city property. So don't tell them David said to kill it. You need to have a permission because you'll get in trouble.
Okay, those were some really great questions, everyone. And that looks like it was the last question in our chat box. And so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today, David. Thank you very much. Do you have any other comments or any information for us, David?
Well, thank you, Ruby and Denise, Nick and Molly. And don't forget Molly's Turfgrass Pest webinar tomorrow. Hopefully some of y'all can attend that. And then Ruby should have this archived on my extension 210 within a week or so. And then don't forget to subscribe and help us get the word out. And look at all the cool webinars that we have. But I really, if you're really serious about turfgrass, when you go to my extension 210 YouTube channel, make sure you check out these two and the other pest talks, because if you follow these three, that's basically 12 months of lawn maintenance, and just follow these steps to a T on how you mow the warm season turf grasses, proper irrigation, proper nutrition, poor aeration and lawn dressing, as well as weed management and others. So again, thank you everyone. I hope y'all learned a little bit today, and we always like to tell folks, learn and have fun, and we'll see you next time here at our webinars.